The Bolts prey on the Predators in Steven Stamkos' return. We break down the return of the Lightning captain and more on today's episode of Locked On Lightning.
You're Locked On Lightning, your daily podcast on the Tampa Bay Lightning, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome in to Locked On Lightning. Josh Sperber here, thanking all of you for making Locked On Lightning your first listen every day. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And if your team is the Tampa Bay Lightning, this is the podcast for you. Today's episode is sponsored by FanDuel, America's #1 sports book, and you can start the season with a big return on FanDuel. New customers can place a $5 bet, and you'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. And we're getting started here talking about the Lightning's 3-2 overtime win over the Nashville Predators. 2 assists from Steven Stamkos and a whole lot of emotions, but it was Nick Paul who was the hero, extended his point streak to a new career high of 6 games with the overtime winner. And the Bolts took Stammer's return. It was a 2-0 first period for the Lightning, and then a 2-0 second period for the Predators, including a power play goal and a couple of other chances, including one that Stamkos almost had on a power play later in the game. And it does seem that the power plays continue to plague the Tampa Bay Lightning this season. It has been tough sledding for the Bolts on offense on the power play, and their penalty kill has not been up to par. The defense, I think, as a whole is still kind of coming around for Tampa, but the Lightning just one notch ahead of the Avalanche for 28th in penalty kill percentage, and they're 21st in power play percentage. We'll talk about that matchup a bit more tomorrow, but let's just go through a couple of good things from this matchup. First off, I mean, it's just good to see and hear the reception that Lightning fans gave Steven Stamkos. I've seen a couple of times where the home fans, you lose a player who's been with the team for a while, who has had a nice career with the team, he comes back to the stadium and gets booed. I don't like when fans do that. I really think it takes away from a fan base if they do something like that, because you want to respect the franchise legends. You want to respect some of the guys that made the team who they are. And Steven Stamkos is certainly that to the Tampa Bay Lightning. So you got to give Lightning fans a whole lot of credit for giving Stamkos the reception that they did. He left in free agency. He left in his own will. And I feel like in that case is when you see the boos and the mistreatment of a former star. And that absolutely didn't happen. First class from Tampa Bay Lightning fans. And, you know, you got to give the best fans in hockey a shout out, and you got to give them credit where credit was due. And then Stamkos followed up with a couple assists, which was a little bit annoying. But Braden Point really answered that, a goal and an assist for Point, and including one of the nastiest goals you'll see all season. Just some fantastic stick handling from Braden Point. And I mean, not to detract from his skills handling the puck, but it's just you feel like you see more of his highlights as just pure shooting. And it's good to see Point really just diversifying his game and showing that he can be a weapon in many different areas on the offensive side of the puck. And if we're talking about offensive weapons, Jake Gensel had one of the most impressive offensive performances of the night. 2 assists, including the just absolutely inch-perfect pass on that game-winning goal to Nick Paul. I mean, his passing has really impressed me this season. You know, he changes the speed of his passes, and he just can find the man so easily. Jake Gensel, it really is is a gifted passer. On the season, he's got 7 assists, which is good for second on the team behind Anthony Cirelli. And, you see a guy like that, big time player, you don't think of the passing skills as much. Those don't, I feel like I just haven't seen them stand out like this. I mean, there have certainly been a couple of games that have really made me realize it, but I mean, I clearly just didn't know how good of a passer Gensel was until this season. But it just seems like pretty much every game he is just dropping some dimes, just some really great passes from Gensel to set up goals, and doing that on the game winner, having the new guy who is essentially replacing Stamkos get that game-winning assist, get the 2 crucial assists for the Tampa Bay Lightning, and spoil the return of a franchise great is just good to see. I think it really signifies a new era of Tampa Bay Lightning hockey. Stamkos did a lot for this team. He'll always be remembered as a legend. I don't think anyone's going to wear 91 for the Lightning again, but he's not on the Bolts anymore. And Jay Gensel, not going to say he replaces him legacy-wise because he's got 15 more years to do that. But he's that starting left wing now. He is there on the team, filling up Stamkos' roster spot at the very least. So I think having Gensel really equal the effort of Stamkos in his return is just a really nice way to showcase this new era in Lightning hockey. And Gensel has really, really proven himself to be an elite offensive player as well. So the Lightning offense continues to impress, and Vasilevsky really seems like he's back to normal. I mean, there is always a chance that we're going to see a rough stretch with a bunch of goals get let in. That's just going to happen sometimes. But the last 2 games, Vasilevsky has had to face a lot of shots. He's had to face almost 70 shots in the last 2 games, and he saved all but 2 of them. So a really good bounce back after a tough start to the homestand against Minnesota for Vasilevsky, and that is exactly what the Lightning want to see. I mean, you feel like the team is just more comfortable taking risks on the ice and just pushing the tempo, really trying to make their imprint on the game. The team is just a lot more comfortable when Andrei Vasilevsky is at his best in the net. And it was certainly the case on Saturday against Washington, and he looked darn close to it on Monday against Nashville. And I'll always be a guy to shout out goalie play, and Vasilevsky was tough in the second period for him, but he did really well. And I think the Bolts as a team, they aren't shy about admitting when they have a down period, and that was certainly the case in the second. And that really seems to be, I mean, it seems to be kind of a recurring theme. I think the Lightning, one recurring theme that I know we've talked about a lot is how much better the Lightning do when they have a solid start. And the 2-goal first period, that's the kind of start you want. Nice and aggressive, trying to get a bunch of chances out of the gate and really set the tone for the game early. But, even after a strong first period, sometimes you can let things slip a little bit. And it seems like for the most part this season, the Devils game being an obvious exception where they scored 5 goals in that second period, at home, we've seen the Lightning slip a little bit in the second, maybe get a little too comfortable after a nice lead to start things out. And they can't do that. I mean, this Lightning, as I mentioned, this Lightning team has proven that they do better when they start out strong, but they need to kind of hold on to that lead a bit and not get comfortable with it in the second period. So I'd like to see more strong starts like this from the Tampa Bay Lightning, but they've got to lock down and play the same elite level, fast start, high octane defense in all three periods. And that is something that I think we're going to have to see against the Colorado Avalanche in the next game. And now it's been almost a month in the Lightning season. The Avalanche game on Wednesday will be the last in October, the opening month of the year for the Tampa Bay Lightning. And there have been a couple of breakout stars, and we're going to talk about who those breakout stars are in a moment. Game Time has a new feature called Game Time Picks that makes getting tickets for your favorite live events even easier. Game Time Picks filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. And you can take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code below, Locked On NHL, for $20 off of your first purchase. Terms do apply, but you can easily create an account and redeem the code Locked On NHL, spelled LOCKEDON NHL, and that will get you $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game Time. Back on Locked On Lightning, and we're locked on some of Lightning's breakout stars this season. Nick Paul and Anthony Cirelli. Cirelli ended a point streak that had lasted 7 games, and Nick Paul set a career high point streak with a game-winning goal in overtime. Now, these were established names on the Tampa Bay Lightning, sure, but it really seems like both of them right now are on pace to have really strong seasons that might end up being both of their bests on the Tampa Bay Lightning. And these are guys who have been here for a couple of years. I mean, we're not talking about these new names. And, Nick Paul is a guy who has kind of moved around lines. Cirelli has as well. And Cirelli is coming off a career-high season with 45 points. Also had his first 20 goals season and third most assists in a single season last year. Meanwhile, Nick Paul also coming off of a career-best season with the Lightning. Most goals, most assists, most points in a single year. And he has set career highs in goals, tied it in assists at least over the last 2 seasons now, and is on pace to absolutely smash that this year with the Tampa Bay Lightning. 24 goals, 22 assists last year, already with 3 and 6 through the first 9 games. And Nick Paul has been here since coming over from the Senators in 2021. He's been up as high as the second line. It seems like Connor Geekie might take that place from him, but I mean, that hasn't changed anything from the way Nick Paul is played. I mean, he's really shown himself to be a team guy. The 29-year-old just proving his ability to be flexible, and that's in a lot of ways what you have to be in the NHL. You have to show that you're willing to take on different roles to help the team win. And that really seems to be the only concern for Nick Paul. He's not a guy who seems to really dwell on individual stats all that much. He's just a player. I mean, he's a hockey player who wants to get out there and do anything that he possibly can to help his team win. And he has done that game in and game out every night this season. And you really got to give him a lot of props, scoring in 7 of the first 9 games for the Lightning. I mean, he's averaging a point a game so far, and no matter which line he's on, he has proved massive. And Anthony Cirelli has proven to be one of the biggest surprises of the season so far. Nikita Kucherov continues to lead the team in points, but the assist leader is Anthony Cirelli. 9 assists for Cirelli. Does have a goal as well, and he has been a nice surprise for Tampa this season. One of their homegrown guys joined the team in 2017, part of those Stanley Cup teams for Tampa Bay. And again, coming off of a career best season, playing all but 3 games, the second most games he has played in a single season with Tampa. And, he's been getting a bump in playing time over the last couple seasons, and it just seems like he's getting better and better. You don't need every guy on every line to be just a dynamite goal scorer. And Cirelli can put the puck in the net, but it really seems like his best attribute is passing, just moving the puck around and helping setting up his teammates. And he does that so far better than just about anybody. 9 assists on the year in 9 games. That is an assist a game, a point a game. That is, it's just been a really solid start to the season. And those are the kind of players that you need to step up when you're, entering kind of a new era in the franchise. And Cirelli tied for 4th in the league. Or sorry, that's plus minus. Cirelli is, he has really exceeded expectations this season for the Lightning. He is tied for 12th in assists, and the guys on the list next to him, Sam Reinhart, Artemi Panarin, and then Neil Pionk with Winnipeg. That's the kind of company that Cirelli has right now. It really seems like Cirelli and Paul are in breakout seasons, and both of them in their late 20s, in their prime, and starting to play at the level of some of the best in the league. And I think they have both been big breakout stars for the Lightning so far this season. Players, unsung heroes, players that you don't expect to be at the forefront of most of the offensive attacks. You don't expect to be the among the top players, maybe. These are kind of names that have flown a bit more under the radar, but they have proven to be just great role players, and they've gotten the job done in just about every sense of the word. And I think they're part of the reason the Lightning have had such a strong start to the season. You're going to need guys like that who, kind of come from different spots in the line or different spots, different, parts of the team. It can't just be Kucherov, Gensel, Point, and Hedman. It can't just be the first line combining for most of those points. You really have to get production from everywhere. And I think that Paul and Cirelli have helped the rest of those bench guys for Tampa really step up. And, their leadership and their talent on the ice has certainly not come unnoticed. And it seems like they're both having breakout years, and I honestly expect more career years from them. I think both of them are definitely on pace to top 50 points this season. Both of them, frankly, are on pace for points totals in the 80s or 90s. Through the first 9 games of the season, Nick Paul's got 9 points. Anthony Cirelli's got 10. That's going to be more 80, 90-point seasons, and it is just another reason why the Lightning offense is just clicking. That offense for the Lightning has been the driving force that has put them in playoff position to this point in that tough division. And the offense just needs to continue, and these Cirelli and Paul, I think, need to continue spurring some of that offense. Because you really see the effect that these guys have on the team when they're on the ice. And I think they have been such a huge part of the Lightning's success so far. And Paul and Cirelli, I think, have certainly been the breakout stars of the first month of the season. And hopefully they'll continue that on Wednesday against Colorado. And that starts a 4-game road trip for the Tampa Bay Lightning against some tough Western Conference teams. It's a long and difficult road ahead for the Tampa Bay Lightning. You can now win up to 100 times your money on Prize Picks with as little as 4 correct picks. Prize Picks is the only way and the best way to get action on sports in over 30 states, including California, Georgia, Texas, and the great state of Florida. Prize Picks is the only real money daily fantasy platform with an injury insurance policy so that your lineups stay in play even if one of your players gets injured. If your player leaves in the first half and doesn't return, Prize Picks keeps your lineup live, and it's the best way to get real money sports action. Join over 10 million users and sign up today. When you sign up today, you can get $50 instantly for just playing $5. You don't even need to win to receive the $50 bonus. It is guaranteed. Prize Picks also offers weekly promotions that can lead to big payouts like Taco Tuesday each Tuesday, like today. Prize Picks discount select player projections up to 25% more to provide even more value for your lineups. And will Nikita Kucherov get more than a goal in Wednesday's game against Colorado? How about Braden Point? Will he get another 1 goal, 1 assist performance? You can cook up hot takes with your friends and win real money with this hockey season when you and your crew run your game on Prize Picks. Make sure to check out the link below. Download the app today and use the code LOCKEDONNHL to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Again, the code below, LOCKEDONNHL. After you download the app, you get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks. Run your game. So let's break down this difficult road trip ahead for the Tampa Bay Lightning. 4 games on the road ending October and beginning November, starting with a spooky showdown against the Colorado Avalanche. I've seen somewhat of a rivalry between Nathan MacKinnon and Nikita Kucherov. Might be stemming from Avalanche fans taking into exception that Lightning fans thought Kucherov deserved the Hart Trophy last year over the winner MacKinnon. And that is going to be the first battle of 2 of the favorites for the Hart Trophy or the Art Ross Trophy or the Hart Trophy this season in Nikita Kucherov and Nathan MacKinnon. I mean, the Avalanche have been one of the best teams in the NHL, especially since their Stanley Cup win a couple years ago. And it's kind of developed into a bit of a rivalry with MacKinnon and Kucherov kind of emerging as stars in the league around the same time. And that is going to kick off the road trip, a date with Colorado on Wednesday. And then once we cross into November, Minnesota for a matchup against the Wild, the Lightning looking for some revenge after Minnesota came here and started off the home stand by dishing the Lightning a 4-2 loss. The Winnipeg Jets on Sunday the 3rd. That is going to be a battle between the Lightning and one of the best teams in the league so far this season, ending it off with what weirdly might be the easiest team on that road trip, but certainly no slouch, the St. Louis Blues, before the Lightning return back home with an 8 against the Philadelphia Flyers. So 4 games, a lot of traveling, and a tough road ahead for the Tampa Bay Lightning. And usually we talk about more specific parts of the season, try and spotlight players and less so on teams, but this is going to be this could be a key turning point in the Tampa Bay Lightning season. The Lightning had a 3-game road trip in pretty quick succession that spanned a lot of miles. Ottawa to Toronto to New Jersey in 4 days, that trip ending last week. But this is the longest road trip of the young season, and you look at most of these teams and they're playoff contenders. The Wild have been among the hottest teams in the league to start the season. The Avalanche are really solid. The Blues are, they're another former Stanley Cup champion that has kind of fallen off a bit, but they can still play. And Winnipeg is one of the better teams in the NHL this year. I mean, having these road trips early, getting these tests in the season early can change the outlook of a season because, the Lightning can go obviously 0-4 or 4-0. There's still different scenarios in between, obviously, but the polls of that can really affect the Lightning season, even this early. Because, these are the kind of trips that you want to use to build momentum. Right now, the Lightning have 12 points, 6-3 through just 9 games, currently sitting second in the Atlantic Division. And they can get to 20 points still with a couple of games in hand, playing against some really solid Western Conference teams. The Jets, 16 points, 8 wins lead the league. The Wild, the Blues, they're both sitting in playoff position in the Central as well. Avalanche right on the cusp of that. And these are all teams that right now are fighting for the playoffs. That's the teams on this Lightning road trip. It's not going to be easy, but a solid road trip, even if they take half of these games, even if they take 3 of them, it's going to be a positive thing. It's not as easy to win games on the road, especially in some of these places that they're going to. Colorado, of course, comes to mind as a really tough atmosphere. Hockey in Canada, if you're an American team, can't be that easy. And the Lightning really have a chance to show that they can be one of the contenders. They have certainly proven that they can go back to the playoffs, that the Lightning will be competing for a playoff spot at the very least come April. But this is the kind of road trip that can separate the men from the boys. If they win this road trip, if they even up this road trip, they're doing that against teams that could also be there in the postseason. This is a playoff road trip essentially for the Tampa Bay Lightning because any of these teams are teams that you might expect to see in the Stanley Cup playoffs. The Lightning want to be there. The Lightning want to get back to those Stanley Cup teams that they had to start the decade. That's the kind of caliber the Lightning fans have come to expect, and the Lightning players have come to expect as well. And this could be a start for that. This could be kind of a jumping off point against, 4 teams among the class of the Western Conference who, like the Lightning, are competing for a playoff spot. And, it's starting the second month of the season. That's where it turns from, all right, the season's getting started, just getting our sea legs under us, to this is who this team is. So the Lightning, don't really waver when it comes to showcasing their identity. They're certainly a team that knows what they're good at. They know how to win games, but this could be a turning point in the Lightning season. So I would like to see a really strong road trip from Tampa to really prove to teams in the league that even though Stamkos just lost to them on a different team, this is still the same tough out Lightning team that you're not going to want to face in the postseason. And the Lightning have a chance to prove that starting in tomorrow's game with Colorado. We'll have a larger breakdown of that game against the Avalanche tomorrow on the preview, but that is going to do it for today's episode. Josh Sperber here, thanking all of you for making Locked On Lightning your first listen today. Now for listen number 2, make sure to check out Locked On Fantasy Hockey. Become a fantasy hockey expert and get the edge over your league mates with daily tips from Steel and Flip. find Locked On Fantasy Hockey on YouTube or wherever you listen to your podcasts. And make sure to give us a like, follow, and subscribe, whether you're listening on Spotify, Apple, or watching on YouTube. We appreciate your guys' support because this podcast is for you, the best fans in hockey, the Lightning fans who are tuning in to Locked On Lightning. So thanks again for checking out the show. I'm Josh Sperber, and we'll talk tomorrow. Go Bolts.